the Bitcoin sector is currently very active. First and foremost, there is a full-fledged regulatory conflict between the SEC and the CFTC. I want to discuss a recent case against Binance that was dismissed in this video, because the long-term effects of this will be profound. I also want to discuss Gary Gensler's accountability. Eleanor Trott has just given us a substantial update on Gary Gensler being hauled before Congress. We have been waiting for this for quite some time, so let's speak about what we might gain from it. Last but not least, I want to discuss whether tomorrow will be a significant day in the Ripple SEC case. David Schwartz has been dropping some hints, so I want to discuss those. I want to speak about what I'm going to do with my XRP instead of whether or not tomorrow will be the day that this case is ultimately resolved. And when the price of XRP eventually experiences a significant exponential price change. I want to discuss whether or not I have broader intentions for my XRP than simply selling it all at a specific price. Make careful to watch all the way to the end to show that I don't believe I have ever discussed this on this channel. In order to properly begin this movie, I would like to briefly thank the Flare token, because it appears that we are currently experiencing a good rally. For those of you who have been watching this channel, I've been expressing that I've been quite pleased with the benefits I'm receiving from owning the Flare token and putting it in my Bifrost wallet. Hence, the Flare token's price can potentially increase nicely, while we are rewarded for merely having the token in our Frost wallet and transferring it. That is certainly a potent mix. Today I want to draw attention to how much Flares have fallen off of both their all-time highs and their trading levels for the IOU. But ultimately, if you're just utilizing this as a chance to acquire tokens, I'd advise you to put more of your Flare on Bifrost or Delegated and get more tokens pouring in. When costs are low, do you really prefer them since you can buy more Flare for less money? The fact that Flare actually debuted in the midst of a bear market meant that there would be significant price suppression. But if Flare is successful, there will be a really strong project underway when we get out on the other side of this. The other thing I want to note regarding the price of Flares is that, contrary to what many people claim, it will never actually increase because so much of the token will be distributed during the ensuing 2 years. I was seeing a lot of talk about this. I only want to draw attention to the fact that most of this distribution has already been factored into prices. When the market anticipates an event, it will often price it in ahead of time. Hence, just because a lot of Flare will be available on the market doesn't necessarily mean the price will be held down. The price might be held down if there was a lot of Flare entering the market that no one was aware of since the market couldn't account for it. I merely want to make this observation, because many people are stating that they won't purchase Flare until the distribution is complete, because it will demand a price. I just want people to know that by taking the risk, you run the danger of missing out on all the benefits because the distribution is already factored into Flare. I'm just putting it out there. Of course, no one is able to foretell the future. Nobody can predict what will occur, so just something to think about. So let's go on and talk about Kerry's protest of being hauled before Congress. Indeed, this is something we have been looking forward to for some time. Eleanor Tarrant appears to have just confirmed that it will take place on April 18th, which is obviously quite exciting. I've been saying for a while that I don't anticipate any immediate pyrotechnics from this hearing, because Gary Gensler is a master of politics in the end. Most of the questions will be easy for him to sidestep, and in fact, I believe that he has planned his legal strategy around avoiding answering particular ones. Consider a scenario similar to the FTX situation. We are aware that Gary Gensler and the SEC played a significant role in enabling FTX to obtain the level of regulatory clarity they did, effectively gaining a regulatory monopoly over the rest of the sector. Well, Gary Gensler of the SEC filed a complaint against the FTX practically immediately after it blew up. I suspect that the SEC filed this lawsuit against FTX primarily so Gary Gensler could say, "Well, we actually have active litigation, thus, I can't answer any questions," when testifying before Congress. I'm feeling very optimistic. That is the main reason the SEC filed the lawsuit against FTX, and I just have a sense that when Eric testifies before Congress, there will be a lot of information similar to that. After all is said and done, This day is still significant because Gary Gensler is under a lot of strain due to the behind-the-scenes activities that require him to submit written responses to these legislators. I believe the most crucial thing we're going to have to watch here is how much pressure he gets from his own party, because that's when Gary Gensler really starts getting into trouble. And the more hearings we can get like this, the more pressure gear against who is going to be under, especially if it's also coming from Democrats. And anything like that could actually compel Trump to begin modifying his policy. I'd want to go on at this point and discuss a brand new case that was just brought today. And for once, this one was actually created by the CFTC rather than the SEC. The CFTC case differs from SEC cases in that they are actually bringing a case that has merit, as opposed to just making a bunch of illogical allegations. I read through the CFTC lawsuit, and it appears that they do have some points regarding events at Binance. For example, CZ, the CEO of Binance, has over 300 accounts, trades on his own exchange, and sends messages to staff members stating, "Hey, you can tolerate this unlawful conduct," essentially telling them to turn a blind eye. And none of these things are favorable for the finance industry. Yet I sincerely doubt that it will be as extreme as the end of Binance. Since Nance is an international corporation and the CFTC only has authority over the United States, I have a suspicion that the CFTC will merely issue a warning in this case. And basically a means to determine Binance, well, this is kind of shady thing you're doing here. Get in line and sort it out. The majority of the charges in this case don't even relate to today. These relate to events that occurred in years like 2018 and 2019. And I believe that since then, Binance has significantly improved. The main thing I want to emphasize is that Binance isn't really under threat in this circumstance. Binance is going to investigate this because they have a lot of money. The CFTC's direct designation of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin as commodities is, perhaps, the more intriguing development to come out of this case. More than anything else, this is a fight over regulations between the CFTC and the SEC. The CFTC and SEC are currently suing businesses arbitrarily in an effort to label various tokens as securities or commodities. We actually saw the SEC pioneer this tactic when it sued a company like Coinbase and claimed that it was engaging in backdoor regulation because it was also trading tokens that it believed to be securities. The SEC doesn't want to put in the effort to actually establish regulations defining what constitutes a security and what does not, or to truly give these various projects an opportunity to convince the public that they are not securities. Instead, the SEC wants to impose this classification on projects, telling them, "Hey, we're going to compel you to be a security by denying you the right to defend yourself, as well as suing this unrelated firm and just shoving it in there." What we see, however, is that the CFTC is actually responding by carrying out this very same action. And despite how disgusting it is, I kind of admired this action because the CFTC had to stand up and respond. When one party acts irrationally and does whatever they want in politics, while the other party refuses to act similarly, it annoys me to no end. The CFTC is doing just that with this. They admitted that the SEC is dirty, therefore they would also act dirty in return. As awful as it is right now, they must just take this action if they don't want the SEC to continue acting erratically. Watching the SEC's reaction to this will be intriguing. Yet, the most crucial lesson here is that this is a fair notice. Why would Ripple have known what these regulators were going to determine when they couldn't even agree on what these various cryptocurrencies were? Gold for Ripple. Earlier in 2013? It's totally improbable.